Hello, friends. The 1092 day of the war between Russia and Ukraine continues. The Russians have once again made significant progress in the Andriivka pocket and have already approached Constantinople, according to the deep state map. It shows that the Ukrainian armed forces have retreated from the area east of Ulakli. Ukrainian military correspondent Miroshnikov wrote the day before that this retreat took place with dead and prisoners. Unfortunately, not everyone left Ulakli. There are dead and prisoners. This could have been prevented if the order to leave the pocket had been given in time. But this was not done. Because good reports are needed to the top that we have everything there. But in fact, control over the situation was lost 2 weeks ago. And the further it went, the more it became aggravated, he reported. And here is the question: if the operational situation after the loss of part of Andriivka indicated the possibility of encirclement, why did they so stubbornly refuse to evacuate the garrison? Why was the situation brought to disaster? The military observer added. The Russians continue their offensive in the area of Velyka Novosilka. In recent days, the enemy has advanced towards Berlutsky, captured half of the village of Novosilka, expanded the bridgehead on the right bank of the Makry-Yaly River, and advanced north into Novo-Oshvituvady. I would like to note that Russia began an active offensive near Velyka Novosilka on February 10 and is advancing here almost every day. A Ukrainian serviceman with the call sign Muchnoy reports that the Russians have consolidated their positions in the village of Novo-Oshvituvady. Now the enemy has consolidated its positions in the village of Novo-Oshvituvady, not yet completely, but most of them with strongholds on their side. The enemy has also occupied part of Novosilka, but has not yet been able to consolidate its position in the village, he wrote. The fighting continues along the entire line, and we do not have enough forces. We need reinforcements for this area, Muchnoy added. Near Pokrovsk, the Russians have recaptured some positions in Pishchane, which the Ukrainian armed forces recently regained. At the same time, Ukrainian forces drove the Russian army off the highway from Pokrovsk to Kostiantynopil. Fighter Muchnoy writes that the enemy was able to regroup and add fresh motorized rifle units in order to attack in all areas near the highway. According to him, the Russians were able to occupy the southern part of Terasivka, where there is a shortage of our forces. Further, the enemy will try to get to Novopoltavka and go through the landings to Novlenevka in order to control the highway, our fighter reports. Now let's move on to the news from which I personally have hope for the end of this fucking surrealism. After Zelensky's negative reviews of the negotiations between Russia and the United States and Saudi Arabia, Trump lashed out at him with criticism. He spoke in favor of holding elections in Ukraine and said that Zelensky's support among Ukrainians had fallen to 4%. In addition, the head of the White House believes that Ukraine should have started negotiations much earlier and could have concluded a peace agreement several years ago. So, when Ukrainians are worried about not being brought to the negotiating table, remember who should have come in and made the deal a long time ago. You could have made the deal yourself, Trump said, commenting on Zelensky's claims that Kyiv was not invited to the talks in Riyadh. He also made it clear that Ukraine itself is to blame for the war with Russia and has disrupted the negotiations to end it. Today I heard, "Oh, we were not invited." Well, you've been there for 3 years. You should have ended it 3 years ago. You should never have started it. You could have made a deal. I could have made a deal for Ukraine that would have given Kyiv almost all the land, almost everything, almost all the territory, and not a single person would have died, not a single city would have been destroyed, not a single church dome would have been torn down. But they decided to go the other way, the US president added. Explaining why Kyiv is not at the negotiating table now, Trump questioned Zelensky's legitimacy. They want a seat at the table, but you can say, don't the people of Ukraine have a voice? They haven't had an election in a long time. This is not a Russian issue, this is something that comes from me from other countries, Trump said. We have a situation where there have been no elections in Ukraine, where Ukraine is essentially under martial law. When the leader of Ukraine, I hate to say it, but his approval rating is 4%, the US president says. Trump explained the need to stop the war by any means possible by the fact that in Ukraine most of the cities are destroyed, the buildings are in ruins. He also made it clear that there could have been more destruction and basically made it clear that Moscow did not want this outcome. Russia did not do this in Kyiv because I think they do not want to launch too many missiles. They destroyed 20%, but not 100%. If they wanted to destroy 100%, it would probably happen very quickly. But you have cities that are completely destroyed. Ukraine is just being wiped off the face of the earth. So, people are tired of this. They want to see something happen, the US president said. He also made it clear that the United States will look into what the aid to Ukraine was spent on. According to Trump, European countries have sent Kyiv about $100 billion in financial aid, while the United States has sent more than $300 billion. But where is all this money that was given? Where does it go? I've never seen a report on this. I don't see any accounting, Trump said. According to him, the Ukrainian leadership should find out what needs all the funds provided are being spent on. Already today, the US president has stepped up his attack on Zelensky. On his social network, he published the harshest statement possible, calling the Ukrainian president a dictator without elections and calling for a vote to be held as soon as possible, otherwise he will have no country left. Just think, a modestly successful comedian Zelensky convinced the United States of America to spend $350 billion on a war that could not be won, that should never have started, but which he will never be able to resolve without the US and Trump. The US spent $200 billion more than Europe, and the European money is guaranteed, while the US will not receive anything in return. Why didn't sleepy Joe Biden demand alignment? When this war is much more important for Europe than for us, we have a big, beautiful ocean that separates us. Besides, Zelensky admits that half of the money we sent him disappeared. He refuses to hold elections, his ratings in Ukrainian polls are very low, and the only thing he has succeeded in is playing Biden like a violin. A dictator without elections, Zelensky better hurry, otherwise he will have no country left. Meanwhile, we are successfully negotiating an end to the war with Russia, something everyone thinks only Trump and the Trump administration can do. Biden didn't even try, Europe failed to bring peace, and Zelensky probably wants the financial flow to continue. I love Ukraine, but Zelensky has done a terrible job, his country is destroyed, and millions have died in vain, and it all continues, Trump wrote on his social network. Among other things, what is striking about these statements is that Trump speaks positively about Russia. Yesterday, he praised the meeting in Riyadh, and today he wrote that we are successfully negotiating to end the war with Russia. And all this against the backdrop of extremely harsh criticism of Zelensky and actual accusations that he does not want the war to end. Trump has spoken about Zelensky in a rather negative manner before, but that was before he was elected president. After winning the election and the inauguration, he made almost no attacks against Zelensky, and even praised him, claiming that he was already ready to conclude peace. But yesterday, for the first time since becoming president, Trump spoke extremely harshly about Zelensky, and accused him, in fact, of wanting to prolong the war, as well as of usurping power. Zelensky went to the press today and rejected Trump's words about a 4% rating and the need for elections. This morning, a poll by the Kyiv International Institute of Sociology came out with 57% trust in me. I heard more than 57%, according to different polls. So if someone wants to replace me right now, it won't work. Since we're already talking about 4%, we've seen this disinformation. We understand that it's coming from Russia. We have evidence that these figures are being discussed between America and Russia. Unfortunately, Trump lives in this disinformation space, Zelensky said. I'll note that the poll Zelensky referred to came out this morning, a few hours after Trump's words about Zelensky's low support in Ukraine. It says that over the past 2 months, from December 2024 to February 2025, the Ukrainians' trust rating for Zelensky has grown from 52% to 57%, although before that, it had been steadily falling. Therefore, the reliability of the rating data has raised questions among many. But Zelensky decided to go further and measure ratings with Trump himself, as well as with other leaders of Ukraine's partner countries, Poland, Turkey, Britain, by conducting surveys in each of them regarding the population's trust in their leaders. Zelensky also disputed Trump's data on military aid provided to Ukraine. He said that the United States gave not 350, but about 100 billion in weapons and money. I think we need to sort out the aid. We have absolute figures. The war cost us 320 billion. 120 billion is us, the people of Ukraine, 200 billion is Ukraine, and the European Union. We are talking about weapons. 320 billion is the arms package. In total, the United States, if we count separately, gave us about 67 billion in weapons plus 31 billion in financial aid to the budget, Zelensky said at a press conference. Returning to the meeting in Riyadh, Zelensky said that yesterday's meeting the Trump administration helped Putin emerge from isolation. He noted that it is their right to discuss bilateral issues. Although I believe that the United States helped Putin emerge from many years of isolation due to a full-scale invasion, Zelensky added. Guys, all I can say at the end of this video is wow. Friends, I understand that the duration of events is becoming less relevant for you, but for me, the situation is only getting worse. Those who have been with me for a long time know that preparing reports on this channel has become my main job, and I have no other job for obvious reasons. Lately, the channel has had few views, so I ask for your help. If you have the opportunity to support me with a cup of coffee, I will be very grateful. Thank you very much for understanding and see you in the next video.